once the victim Katie, now returning after 5 years as the brand, new Casey Blarez. How will she confront those who once bullied her? And what opportunities will her secret becoming a werewolf bring to her revenge? If you're ready to witness the comeback of an underdog, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Hunted becomes the huntress 5 years ago. Ashington Middle School, Ashington, Connecticut. 7th grade. Hey Katie, I heard you ate dead people. Do you speak to N too? Luke Dunn laughed in my face, the rest of the class laughing and gathering around. I was the last one playing statues against my friend, Grace Brown, in theater class. The point of the game was one person was supposed to try to get the rest of the class to move. The last one that hasn't moved a muscle wins. Yeah. Do you eat dead people? Chase called out, making them all laugh harder. My fists clenched by my sides. They never give up. More than halfway through the school year and they haven't given up. I'm still a freak in game to them. Hey Katie, look at that dead squirrel over there. All its guts and brains spitting out onto the ground. I loved animals. So what? Chloe knew and didn't have any right to say that though. Her little group of witchy friends gathered around, practically repeating what Chloe said. Enthusiasm, they have made fun of me because of how I dressed, how I act, and how pudgy I was. I wasn't fat, but I wasn't skinny. I was just round, and because of that it gave those girls another reason on the very long list to ruin my life. I noticed out of the corner of my eye, Grace laughing with all of them, as if humiliating me was hilarious. I felt the tears swell up in my eyes. It was just another game of who can get Katie to cry first, and this time, the winner was Grace. As the class continued laughing and yelling things in my face, warm tears slid down my cheeks, but not from sadness, from anger. I was furious. I was Miss Perfect, or at least I tried. I did everything to get high grades, to keep on the teacher's good sides. I worked my freak in ass off, and one punch across the bastard's face would send me out of this school. No, I worked too hard to have work thrown away on a bunch of immature witches. Though I had to settle with yelling. SHUTUP. I screamed back in Luke's face. It was silent for only seconds before they erupted with laughter. All right. Everyone back to your seats. My theater teacher, Mrs. Guttit, I directed as she came back into the room. She quickly noticed me crying, and as the others sat down, chatting among themselves now, she brought me back to her office behind the props. There I explained everything that just happened, all the nasty things my classmates said. This wasn't news to her, though she had heard the others in the past bullying me, but hadn't done much to stop it. Just tell me how bratty and immature they are. Teachers usually shouldn't say mean things about students to other students, but that's what I admired her for. She didn't do much to stop the harassing, but she'd give me better parts in plays if she thought I actually did well and gave me more responsibilities. Plus, she didn't get me in trouble when I dissed the group of girls once or twice. She calmed me down in the back room, getting me to laugh when she agreed with me that the only reason these kids were in theater was because they were too lazy and pathetic, that they didn't want to sing in chorus or carry around instruments in orchestra or band. And with that, she sent us all to lunch, present day. I recalled the terrible memory when I got a text from my friend Paige Carey that Mrs. Guttit I had quit and moved to Florida. I didn't blame her. There were about 2 kids in theater she actually didn't hate, and that was me, and a boy named Adrian Holmes, who had also moved away the same year as I did, right before 8th grade. With both of us gone, teaching that class must have been hell for her. I was glad she actually got out of there while she could. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Quit texting. You'll be seeing whoever in less than an hour, Mom said from the driver's seat. Assured, Blonde hair fell across her blue eyes before she could brush them away. Tucking my phone into my pocket. I couldn't believe in less than 60 minutes, I'd be seeing all those morons again. I had moved to New York almost 5 years ago because my mom had gotten a job there. It was the worst and best thing I could have imagined. I'd finally be leaving those jerks that had ruined my 6th and 7th grade years. But I'd be leaving my friends as well. My father had just died instant his death. My friends and I grew closer. It caused me a lot of pain to leave them. I couldn't be much happier that I was going back. I hadn't seen any of them since the move-in within those 5 years. I have changed a lot. I lost a lot of weight. I've switched my style from those loose baggy jeans, large t-shirts, and sneakers to skinny black jeans, slim t-shirts, and black military boots. I had changed my name, and I've gotten a whole new attitude. New York can change a person. Now I just go by Casey Blarez. The name Katie just seemed innocent for my new self. It didn't fit right. So okay, you excited to be going back to Ashington? Mom asked, trying to break the silence in the car. We were only about 20 minutes from Ashington. It'll definitely be different. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience and enthusiasm. We were moving back because my mom got transferred again. She started out as a teacher. Then we moved to New York because she got a job as an assistant principal. And now we're going back because she got the principal's job at the high school, same school I'll be attending. Great. Note my sarcasm. I know what you're thinking with a mom as principal. You probably get a lot of advantages. Right. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. You get cold glares from the people your mom has punished and high expectations from your teachers. I'm sorry you have to start today. I wish we could have had time to move into the house first and settle in. But I got the job just last week and I have to start work ASAP, Mom said, putting to the first lane. To more freaking exits. I was excited and nervous at the same time. Not even any of my friends knew I was coming back. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. The sooner I can start and get it out of the way, the better. I guess, I mumbled in response, watching the familiar forest scenery fly by into a mixture of late autumn oranges, reds, yellows, greens, and browns. Mum pulled off the exit. A couple quick turns and 5 minutes later, she pulled up out front of the large Ashington High School. My nerves tensed, but not because of the bullies and having to face them again. Trust me, they're practically going to be the ones begging for mercy when summer comes around. But because I've changed so much, I'm not sure what the rest of the student body will see me as. If they realize it's me at all. I'll make sure they see crystal clear that I was Katie Blarez, but I'm not the same innocent little girl that they tormented for years. I grabbed my bag from the back seat and climbed out, walking up to the front doors of the building. It was still large, but it looked smaller than I remembered. I heard Mom's high heels clicking against the pavement behind me and pushed the doors opened. I pulled the schedule the school had sent last week from my bag, glancing at it to be pleased that I had lunch at this time. Perfect. You know where you're going, sweetie? Mom asked. Please. I remember this place like it's the back of my hand. I'm all good. I grinned up at her. She smiled warmly down at me, saying a quick goodbye before heading into the office. Taking a deep breath, I forced that first step and made my way down the hall. The chatter coming from the cafeteria became louder as I saw the open doors. With one more proud stride, I found myself standing in the doorway of the cafeteria and about 100 pairs of wide eyes staring right at me. Oh, did I forget to mention that I was now a kick-ass werewolf? Chapter 2 Memories Burn. Ashington Lower Middle School 6 years ago, 6th grade. Hey Katie. I ate it all this morning. It was delicious and meaty and OMG. Sydney steely laughed in my ear as she and her friend came up to me at lunch. Oh yeah, and my dad ran Alnick at this morning. It's got spraying across the windshield. Sydney's friend. Ella Perkins. I glared up at them, trying to continue eating my lunch as my friend Danica jumped from her seat. Just leave her alone, will ya? She hissed at them. The girls giggled as they walked away back to their table across from ours, still laughing and obviously whispering things about us. Thanks, I muttered to Danica as she calmly sat back down next to me, that flare of hatred and annoyance still cleared in her dark brown eyes. No problem. Those girls need to grow up anyway, she growled, taking a sip of her chocolate milk while I continued to glare at the girls from my seat, not glancing away for a moment. They tried looking away, even blocking my glare with their lunch bags, but eventually they got up and walked back over, their faces red from laughing. OMG, Katie. I'm really sorry, Ella said forcefully. It was clear in her smug little voice that she didn't mean a word. Sorry was just a random word used with no meaning to her. Just go away. I can tell when you don't give a crap. To my agent extraordinaire, my Lindolben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Not daring to look up at them. No, but was serious. Can you please just stop glaring at us? Sydney pleaded, but struggling not to laugh. Just go away. Danica snapped back at them. They tried to hide their giggles as they slunk off in a different direction of their table. Feeling the tears come to my eyes again. The boys gave me a hard time last period in science. I don't need some girls ruining my lunch as always. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I glanced up at the teacher standing over me from behind, her face fairly dark. I switched my glare to Sydney and Ella, who were standing defensively behind her. These girls keep saying you're glaring at them even though they apologized to you. Will you please leave them alone? Her voice rocky like sandpaper, being rubbed back and forth. But they were being jerks and, yeah, but we, apologized. Sydney piped up defensively. That's right. They did. So can you please eat your lunch and stop staring in their direction? The teacher said with as much authority as she could muster. I muttered under my breath and turned back to my lunch, taking a bite of my sandwich. I heard the girls giggle a thank you innocently to the teacher before prancing back off to their seats, the teacher taking a final glance around before stalking back off to wherever she came from. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I did something to stop the bullying once again, yet I'm the one that gets scolded. Present day. An air of silence floated above the heads of everyone in the cafeteria, eyebrows rising in shock or surprise or knitting together into a confused expression. It was clear they could feel who I was, even if they didn't recognize me. I stood in the doorway for another second, scanning the faces of all the students. I recognized almost everyone there. Some of the unfamiliar faces were most likely new students that began attending Ashington in my absent years. Spotting out some familiar faces filled with surprise, joy and confusion, I strode towards the table in the far corner of the cafeteria, plopping my butt down on the stiff plastic seat. Their mouths hung in as if a question or sentence was forming on their tongues, but they were unable to spit it out. While the silence continued, every eye on me, I grabbed my water from my bag, taking a gulp before smirking back at my old friends. Well, someone's going to have to say something eventually, I chuckled. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Abby Calvin S. asked wide-eyed. She had been my longest friend, more like a sister to me than anyone. especially since those hard times. She looked so much older now with her long, dirty blonde, thin, straight hair and deep, innocent blue eyes. Her wardrobe hadn't changed a bit, still silly and blues and flower pinks. That's the ABS I knew and loved. Next to hers at Maggie Carson, my bright blue-eyed friend with her short blonde hair. It seemed she hadn't changed at all besides her much shorter hair. Her face was still round and sweet, but I knew too well she wasn't the sweetest person around, but sweet enough and rockin' to be one of my best friends. Beside her sat Mary Curtis, her crazed blonde hair pulled back into a ponytail, her slim face full of confusion. She wore a horse necklace, which she adored last time I saw her, a loose-fitted horsey shirt. She had always been a close friend of mine, and we constantly chatted while I was away to all the odd hours of the night. Katie Blarez. I heard a boy from the other side of the cafeteria kid question loudly, the silence growing to frenzied whispers. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. It's Casey now, but I'm filled with complete and utter joy that you remembered me. I called back to the kid, glancing behind me to see that it was Jeff or Nick, a bulky and full of himself kid. Also one of the boys who found it amusing to watch me cry a few years back. And I'm filled with more joy to know you and your large. Shut talkin', mouth haven't changed a bit. I grimaced, as a wave of ooh grew in the room, Jeff's face turning a bright shade of red. Sup guys? It's been a while, huh? I smiled coolly, turning back to my friends whose faces were between the urge of bursting into laughter from my comeback to Jeff and still shocked from my sudden appearance. Hell yeah, Maggie said, coming around to give me a huge hug. I gladly hugged back before she pulled away and granted Mary and Abby to tackle me with hugs from both sides. OMG, bud. You never visited. You look totally different. So groovy, bud. Abby squealed and I couldn't help laugh. Same old Abby and her hippie talk. You could never get bored of talking to her, even if she talked for hours in a one-sided conversation. My God, what did you do to your hair? Mary asked, smiling wildly as she looked down at my long, black hair. Last time I had seen them I had long, wavy brunette hair that made me look small and sweet. I had dyed it black a little over 3 months ago and had gotten side bangs to better frame my face. On good days I'd straighten it to better complement my heart-shaped face. You know, a little dyeing here, some straightening there. No biggie. I noticed the chatter in the room had picked up, but almost every pair of eyes was still on me. No doubt they were talking about me and my appearance. It was pasted along all their faces. Ashington kids were never great at hiding facial expressions. Another reason why only two people had mastered theatre. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfading patience, enthusiasm. I heard squealing from behind, and as I turned, I was attacked from all sides with hugs from Danica Moore, Ollie Grant, Paige Carey, and Rebecca Lane, all my friends from past years that have comforted me through some of my hardest times. Hal, why are you here? Paige asked, unable to contain her excitement. I mean, not that I'm not happy you're here, but my mom got a job as a principal. I replied nonchalantly, no way. Your mom's the new principal here? Danica asked. I didn't say that. Of course you didn't, but the principal's job here just opened up, and of course, you're here, Ollie said in her usual yet lovable know-it-all voice. That must be awesome to have your mom as principal. Probably a whole lot of advantages. Right. Rebecca nodded as if knowing I'd agree with her. Not really. Just knowing kids that she's punished will probably come after me. But you know, I'm a big girl now. I could handle myself just fine. So you got a new look. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, Heartfelt thanks for your unfading patience, enthusiasm. Are we supposed to be intimidated? Chloe and Sydney appeared behind me, arms crossed, eyes glinting heavily. I smirked back at her, resting my elbows on the back of the chair and my chin on my fists. Not yet, you aren't, I spat, feeling my wolf flash behind my eyes. Making eye contact while threatening a wild animal was never a smart move. We'll see about that, but just remember, once a loser, always a loser. Chloe hissed before she and Sydney giggled obnoxiously as they retreated towards their table where the rest of the popular witchy girls sat, staring at me and guffawing as they whispered amongst each other. How sweet they threatened me. Flattered, I mused as I turned back to my friends. They don't stand a chance. Mary snickered with an amused smile. Oh well, Abby sighed, clearly trying to avoid the tension. That was the ABS, the peacekeeper, the innocent big-eyed and bushy-tailed girl. You're back, and that's really all that matters. Right. Back and better than ever. I grinned, swallowing down some more water. And you know it, baby? The voice deep inside me said. My wolf, as if just saying it brought her great pleasure. And it brought me just as much. Chapter 3. Wolves never forget 6 years ago. Ashing Tyan Low, a middle school 6th grade. Hey. Look at this. Ollie Star Jordan came up to me. A picture of lions mauling an antelope, opening its throat and eating its internal organs. I tried ignoring him, looking away when another picture of a dead-in-skin panda my eyes. I glared past the picture and up at a cackling Jeff and Ollie Star, laughing their heads off. I looked down at my work, trying to concentrate on it and not on the boys. Come on. Don't be such a baby. It's just a lion tearing the lungs out of this soft and cuddly antelope. Grow up, for crying out loud. Ollie Star snickered, Jeff laughing like a maniac behind him. I couldn't help the tears that started gathering behind my eyes, threatening to coo out. I just couldn't believe these people would be like this. I didn't even know them before this year. I couldn't even understand why they thought it was funny to watch me cry. Was it because I just liked animals? Was it because I didn't dress hot and exposing like the other girls? Was it because I wasn't popular altogether, or I wasn't funny? I just couldn't understand, and frankly, I'm not sure I want to. Present day. I sat through the rest of the day being stared at by other students. I could hear them talking about me, saying things like, OMG, remember when her hair was crazy and greasy looking? What happened to her? I bet she got possessed by a ghost or zombie or something. I'm sure it's one big act. Show her a dead rabbit and she'll go down in tears. I rolled my eyes. I don't know if they sensed it, but I caught their sense by just walking into the room. About 3 or 4 kids in this one class were werewolves, and I couldn't even tell 6 years ago. But now it was clear as day what they were. Their large canines flashed under the dim fluorescent lights, and the golden walls laced into their eyes were quick giveaways. When school had ended, I found Maggie and Danica in front of the building, beating up beside it. I had told my mom I was going to hang with them in town for a while and probably wouldn't be back till later. Oh my god, it's so awesome to have you back. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble. Heartfelt thanks for your unfading patience, enthusiasm. Danica smiled. I threw her a look. I had made it very clear to the others that I was strictly called Casey. Innocent victimized Katie was dead, hiding in my shadow and being told by the new me, the stronger and more independent me. Sorry, Casey, they giggled before, standing quietly and beaming at me almost awkwardly. That was when the sense hit me. My jaw fell slack and I raised my eyebrows at them in question. No, you're not. I grinned, knowing what they'll say. What? You can't really be that surprised, can you? Danica said. Now that I had caught their scent, the gold laced in her earthy brown eyes was clear, and it looked as if the gold in Maggie's eyes was a sea serpent weaving an end out of the water. I was starting to think you'd never find out. Maggie chuckled. How long have you known? I whispered, knowing they would know what I meant. Please. We caught your scent the moment you stepped foot into the cafeteria. I'm sure a lot did. Danica mused as we began walking towards town. As we walked, I noticed some of the other students glaring at me with cold, suspicious eyes, making me wonder the answer to my next question. How many others are werewolves? And who? In 12th grade alone, about 12, including Maggie and I. Danica answered nonchalantly. You make the 13th. And for who? Ryan Andrews, Doubt Smith, Ollie Grant, Luke Dunn, Liam Miller, Amber McCain, Crystal Palmer, Jeff Olnick, Nick England, and Damon Fallon. Maggie finished. My mouth dropped. Luke Dunn, Nick England, Jeff Olnick and Liam Miller were werewolves. They were maybe the last people in school I would ever expect to be wolves. It was depressing to think they had any value in life. You're joking, right? I laughed, making sure I had heard right. Those ARS holes were more like just bunnies than werewolves. Unfortunately not. Maggie rolls her eyes. That's not even the worst of it. God, it gets worse than that. Oh yeah, Danica sighed. Damon Fallon is our alpha. I stopped walking. A wave of chills spilled across my body as my eyes widened in a crazy mix of emotions. Flashback. 5 years ago, 7th grade. God, you are just pathetic. Damon sneered, looking down on me, his group of friends hanging around him in a cluster. I scrambled to the ground to gather my books that Luke had purposely knocked from my hands. I mean, look at you. Can I ask you what planet you came from? 'Cause it sure as hell it's not Earth. His friends roaring with laughter. A few boys were stepping intentionally all over my drawings that had taken weeks to finish, now covered in boot and sneaker impressions. I pried the papers from beneath their feet and continued collecting the rest of my stuff before hurrying away, listening to the laughs of the boys fading behind me and being swallowed by the talking of other students that began to file from their last classes and into the hallways. Yet out of all the people that gave me a hard time, which was a lot, was maybe the worst. His words burned me like venom, always tearing more away from my will and dignity. After a while, there was nothing left to tear away, and I became a soulless being, wandering around from class to class, trying my hardest to ignore Damon or at least avoid him altogether. Neither ever worked, leaving the venom to consume my trust in others. I pulled away from all my friends, my family. I felt trapped and alone, no one to turn to. It wasn't till my dad passed that I grew closer to my friends and my mom again. But the bullying didn't stop. It didn't stop until I was 2 hours and several miles away from my tormentors. Present day. You mean Damon Fallon, the jerk with the shaggy dark hair, extremely dark, almost black eyes, always smirking and hanging with the hot witchy chicks. Damon Fallon. He's the freak in Alpha. My mouth dry and a ball of lead forming in the pit of my stomach. Yeah, since his parents died in a car accident last month. He's been completely in charge of the pack, but he's still pretty broken up about it. He tries so damn hard to hide it in school, Maggie informed. Oh my God, I gotta admit, I almost feel bad for him. Yeah. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Danica grinned. The guy can still be a huge jerk though, but I was actually really surprised. After lunch today, he went into like a phase. He was stiff in all the classes I had with him, and it was like his friends weren't there. It was so odd, Maggie said, her eyebrows knitting together as if trying to figure it out. Damon was a strange guy, a locked book. All his secrets were on the inside, never open about them. Best not waste the effort. Megs, it's not worth it. Her face lighting as she lightly pushed me in a friendly manner. Whatever. I just say we drop it. It's not that important. Probably hormones or something. Besides, there's so much more we have to fill you in on first. Grabbing my wrist and dragging me behind her eagerly, Danica struggling to fall. Chapter 4 Rumors die, but hunt for eternity 5 years ago Ashington Upper Middle School. 7th grade so. While you were up on stage, you know, when you were practicing with Mrs. Duty and the other kids in Little Women. My close, fun, loving, energetic friend, Amber, asked as she sat down next to me at the lunch table. I nodded, nervous about where this discussion was heading yet waiting for her to continue. Well, while you were up there, Chloe leaned over and whispered to me, "Is Katie, like anorexic or something? She, like, totally lost a lot of weight." And then Sydney said, "I bet she's like depressed or something, and is starving herself to death." Creep. I just couldn't believe they said that. I was about to punch in. Amber growled. My jaw dropped, hurt filling my eyes, ready to pour over and stream down my cheeks. My dad just passed away. I've been sad and mourning, barely able to eat. I was the definition of Daddy's little girl. He had been sick months before, and while my mom worked her butt off the mortgage and take care of his medical bills, I sat with him, helping him with even the smallest things. I knew his time was running out, but I never expected his death to be so soon. I was definitely hit hardest with the news. I practically went into a coma, locking myself in my room, hiding under my covers, crying for hours on end until I couldn't cry any longer, but only because I'd hydrated myself out by crying out everything I had been holding up for the months my dad was suffering. I couldn't talk to anyone. I felt they wouldn't understand. No one could understand. And going to school, acting as if everything was fine and still participating in the school play, that took all my effort and all my guts, and the last thing I needed to hear was Chloe getting warmed up to start spreading around a rumor. To everyone else in the school, her words were the golden truth. Everything she said was inspiring and amazing to others. For her to start a rumor about me being anorexic would be the truth. The great truth. The golden truth to others. And there was nothing I could say to prevent people from believing her lies. Nothing at all. I just had neither power nor authority in this school. I was just an outcast. Present day. Next day, I sat with my friends at lunch. Mary going on about her horse, Navia, and Abby talking her. Groovy, talk like always. Maggie sat on one side of me, and Danica the other, as we discussed between ourselves just about the happenings at school. They were telling me what the bullies had been doing in my absent years. Apparently, after I left, they moved on to another victim who just so happened to be a close friend of mine, Amber McCain. I noticed her sitting at a table on the other side of the cafeteria and instantly felt bad. My once happy-go-lucky friend looked depressed, staring down at her food with vacant, stormy eyes. Her skin looked pale, and her vibrant orange hair was now dull and a little shaggy. Just by looking at her like that, I felt the ghastly memories fill my mind. All the terrible things the bullies had said to me. I have never wished once that they were to be cursed on someone else. Cautiously, I stood from the table, well aware that my friends' eyes were on me, and headed towards Amber's. She didn't notice me coming until I sat down in the rickety plastic chair beside her. "Hey, Amber," I smiled softly at her. She looked up at me, and almost instantly did her eyes glow a fraction of their usual china blue. I didn't know whether or not she had heard of my return, but either way, she just seemed ecstatic to just have me sitting in that chair beside her. Oh my gosh. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nobel, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. You look totally different. I love what you've done with your hair. She grinned, though I could tell her excited words were forced. She was still suffering, and I knew she would. But that gave me an idea. Why don't you come sit with us? I want to talk to you about something. Standing from the table and getting her to follow me back to ours where she sat down on the other side of Maggie. Luckily, Abby and Mary were too wrapped up in their conversation to notice what we were planning. Is it true that Chloe, Sydney, and Ella still hang out at the mall every Saturday in the afternoon? Leaning in so only the three other girls could hear. Yeah, why? Danica wondered aloud, even though I could see Maggie and Amber were getting the idea. I say we get back. A sly grin sneaked into my face. Similar grins made their way to the girls' faces, Amber's eyes instantly filling with a shine of mischievousness. An idea was already beginning to take place in my head, and once it started, it wouldn't stop. After I explained my revenge plan to the girls, more kept filling my mind, but they were planned for the rest of the bullies. Jeff, Ollie Star, to my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Damon. One by one, they're going to meet their own game, and the person pulling the strings. Chapter 5 Forgiveness isn't in my dictionary. Ashington Upper Middle School 5 years ago. 7th grade. Hey. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Chloe's clan of witches called from the other side of the auditorium. Letting out a frustrated sigh, knowing that I shouldn't. I looked up from my script and turned to them. What? I bit, throwing them a spiteful glare. Somehow, they found that funny and couldn't help themselves but giggle. So we heard about your relationship, Chloe hissed, a sly grin slithering to her face as she exchanged looks with her friends. I knew I was just taking the bait by going along with it, but it wouldn't make things any easier for me if I just ignored them. Trust me, I've tried, and it's like ignoring a bee that is buzzing right in your ear. What relationship? Your relationship with Chloe's dog. Sydney. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. And Jessie blurted out, laughing, in unison. Chloe's slim little face was red as she was practically laughing her lungs out, doubled over and appreciating when Sabrina and Maev joined in. I growled, rolling my eyes as I turned away from them. If I could yell at them everything that was going on in my head, I would, but I was stronger than them. I can't stoop down to their level. I wouldn't. Present day. They're such posers. Maggie growled, glaring up at Chloe, Sydney, and Ella as they sat together, drinking smoothies a few tables over in the mall food. They giggled with each other as they tried getting the attention of a couple boys a table over from them. Tell me about it, I muttered, rolling my eyes as I leaned back in my seat and taking a French fry from the basket in the center. And that haircut Chloe got makes her head look too big for her body, Amber chimed in, her eyes narrowed a queen bee OTCH. Just like a Barbie doll. She spat. Oh, her head's been too big for her body since the day she was born, Danica remarked, snickering as she took a sip of her soda. I'm surprised her mother survived giving birth to that thing. You could say that again. I laughed, fist bumping her from across the table. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. 2 o'clock. You guys ready? Maggie cut in, grinning wildly as she pulled the bag of paint explosives from her bag, tossing them to me. Did I forget to mention that Maggie was secretly a science nerd? I've been ready for this for the past 7 years of my life. Gladly taking the explosives as I placed my Batman baseball cap on my head, making sure it shadowed my face. Amber and Maggie got out their phones as Danica pulled out her camcorder, pretending to be fooling around with it as she faced it towards the girls, ready to capture our payback on film. 10 million views on YouTube, here I come. Cautiously, I got up from my seat, the explosives clutched in my fist as I strolled towards the bullies, keeping my head down so they didn't see my face just yet. As I casually strolled by them, I covertly dropped each of the small round paint explosives into each of their bags, not pausing or slowing down at all to avoid catching their attention. I circled around the food court before making my way back to my seat, sitting down back at the table and leaned back to watch the show. Recording as of now, Danica saying, Maggie and Amber nodding as they had their phones carefully and invisibly pointed at the other girls. Now all we do is wait. I grinned, kicking my feet up on the table as I grabbed a handful of the fries, waiting for the action to happen. Minutes passed before the girls got ready to move on. I sat at the edge of my seat, ready to get back after all those years of humiliation. I exchanged a sly grin with my friends just before the bullies picked up their bags. Then 3 small pops echoed through the food court, followed by shrieks. The paint explosives had been triggered by the movement, and now Chloe was splattered all across the front in dark blue paint, Ella covered in green, and Sydney painted bright red. They looked at each other and down at themselves with a look of utter disbelief. Cue for our great entrance. Hey, Sydney. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilban. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing enthusiasm. Chloe. Walking up to them, my girls right behind me, though Danica the only one still recording. They looked at us in complete shock, their eyes wide as they stared at the 4 outcasts. Losers. And nobody's in front of them that just got back and embarrassed them in the middle of the mall and on film. Oh, what's the matter, Ella? You're looking a little green. Amber faked a sympathetic sigh, coming up beside me as she gleamed mischievously at the girls. Ellie gasped, insulted as she shook the paint off her hands and ran towards the girls' bathroom, Sydney close behind. And Chloe, looking a little blue there. Don't worry, I'm sure you'll be able to smile again one day. I mean, once you get the paint off your teeth, Maggie hissed. Chloe glared menacingly at her before shifting her glare to me, narrowing her eyes to slits. If a look could kill, she'd have disintegrated me by now. Run along now. Chloe, don't want to be a smurf ever now, do we? Shooing her away. She gave me a final glare before spinning on her heel, running towards the ladies' room to where her friends were, no doubt, trying to get some of the paint off. And cut. Danica cheered, her smile spreading from me too. It was the 4 of us 5'd each other in a little celebration of victory. I say we celebrate at my place with pizza and a movie. Any objections? To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing enthusiasm. Pulling out my phone and ready to order several large pizzas. None of them objected as we cheered while I hastily called the pizza place. 3 bullies down, only a handful left to go. But don't worry, my brain is exploding with thousands of mischievous little tricks. My games have only begun. Chapter 6, knock 'em down like dominoes, Ashington Upper Middle School. 5 years ago, 7th grade, so Katie. Damon grinned, leaning closer to me. How does it feel to be the ugliest person in school if not Earth? I'm genuinely curious. I ignored him, my arms crossed in front of my chest and my nails beginning to dig into my flesh. If anyone crossed the line, went too far, it was definitely Damon. I could never get a break from him. Even days that I stayed home because I was so scared to go to school, he would send emails or texts. Brutal ones. Eventually, they burned so much, brought me so much pain, I didn't even bother opening them. I just deleted them on first sight with no hesitation. Every message I opened seemed to just tear bits away from my heart, from what was left of my pride, what was left of the little respect that I had left. I was withering away, these jerks literally sucking the life from me. Why don't you tell me? To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel, heartfelt thanks for your unfading patience, enthusiasm. It's not that hard. All you have to do is tell me. I glared at him from the corner of my eye, my grip becoming tighter on my own arms that I felt my nails pierce my skin. Light flow of blood dripping from the wounds. Just, please, stop, I squeaked, barely able to hear my own words. You know I won't. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. His dark eyes glinting mischievously. Present day. So, who's next on our list of targets? Maggie asked me excitedly, a wide grin on her face during lunch the next day. Danica and Amber leaned in, eager to hear what kind of revenge we had for the next bully. I was thinking Jeff, Olnick and Ollie Star Jordan. I replied, taking a bite of my sand, which nonchalantly. They all smiled in a silent agreement, exchanging small glances with each other. What do you have in mind? Dead fish in the locker, steal their clothes and towels during gym. The paint trick again. Danica questioned eagerly. Close. The boys have gym next period. Leaning back in my chair, Maggie nodded in confirmation, making my smirk grow. Perfect. That makes this all the more easier. I laughed, taking a gulp of my Pepsi as the girls looked at me with confusion, obviously very curious about what I had up my dark sleeves. Lights. Makeup. I mused slyly, grinning maliciously at my friends. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Who the hell did this? Jeff's furious voice echoed down the hallway. Maggie and I turned and looked down the row of lockers to see Jeff and Ollie Star standing in the middle of the hallway in old women's dresses with knitted floral designs. I had made sure to have sewn pillows into the exterior chest to create the look of old saggy breasts. Above their lockers I had planted flowers so when they opened them to reach for their clothes, only to find the granny dresses. They would be covered in the white powder, making their hair white and sandy, like old ladies. I don't even know why they went for it. Besides a couple moderationers, it was one of the oldest tricks in the book. I did. Sticking my hand up into the air. I needed to make sure they knew I controlled their lives now. They were my pawns and I was now the player. Both their eyes found me and they stormed up to me, Ollie Star shoving me brutally against the locker. His eyes flamed with fury. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nobel, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. And embarrassment. Embarrassed that he had to be seen in front of the student body like my grandmother. Of course it would be you. Jeff growled, narrowing his eyes at me. Only you could have pulled off such a pathetic prank. He snarled, but I couldn't help but snicker, not being able to take him seriously looking like my great-grandmother. What's so funny? Ollie Star demanded, shoving me harder against the cold grey lockers. He only made me laugh even more hysterically, both their faces turning even redder. I'm sorry, but I can't take you seriously when you're dressed like Betty White. I cackled, laughing in their faces, like they had done to me so many years ago. You're gonna pay for this, Blarez, Jeff threatened, grabbing me by the front of the shirt and holding me higher so that my feet didn't touch the floor any longer. This school wasn't like the schools on TV where boys wouldn't dare to ever hit a girl. If they were enraged and provoked enough, they'd break my nose. Luckily, I still had the upper hand. Please, Jeff, I've already paid 3 years of my life for this. It was about time you've paid me back. I laughed before bringing my knee up into his, little friend down south. He let out a loud and pained groan, dropping to his knees and collapsing to the ground, caressing his pained friend. I snickered as Ollie Star tried to take a swing at me, missing my face by centimeters. Before he had another chance to swing, I brought my foot up above my head and felt it connect with his jaw, sending the boy dressed like an old woman into the lockers. He groaned as he fell beside Jeff on the floor, blood flowing from Ollie Star's nose. I thought I had made it pretty clear. Boys, it's Casey now. I spat, yearning over the two whimpering boys with my arms crossed and a smirk playing my lips. Remind me to never get on your bad side, Maggie said, walking up beside me and looking down at my handiwork. Wise thing to do, Mags. I grinned, dusting off my hands as I turned on my heel and headed towards my next class, leaving the boys moaning and groaning on the floor for the student body to see. Chapter 7: The Devil and His Hellhounds. Ashington Upper Middle School 5 years ago. 7th grade, and she ran out crying. Oh my God, she's such a baby. She's so weird. I can't believe her. I wish she would just get her face out of this school. I glared back at the table barely 4 feet away. All the girls from my theatre class and more who all wish I was dead sat, eating their lunches. They barely spoke in hushed tones, maybe not realizing I was there, maybe wanting me to hear. I clenched my orange tightly in my hand, juice beginning to run through my fingers and down my wrist. One girl suddenly saw me staring and shushed her friends, all their eyes turning towards me. Each of them gave me a nasty glare before moving their heads closer together, now whispering. With the orange crushed in my hand, I threw it at the other table, the fruit landing in the middle and spilling some of their drinks. I shot up from my chair, my fists clenched tightly by my sides, tears threatening to pour out. I walked up to the table, glaring down at the girls. Do you really think I'm that stupid? I snarled. Do you think I'm deaf? They continued glaring up at me, some giggling and murmuring to each other. I banged my fist down on the table, rattling it, and making the girls shut their traps and look at me. I have never done shit to you. I didn't even know you before this year. I yelled. You think I didn't hear you talking about me? I'm sitting a freaking table away. Did you think that I was stupid enough not to understand you were talking about me? We weren't talking about you. A weasel, girl named Erin Saunders sneered. I glared down at her, my teeth clenched so tightly I swore they were going to break. I heard my name about 10 times, you witch. I snapped. Each of their jaws dropped at my fancy wording. I can't believe any of you. I glared at them all once more before walking back to my chair, collapsing down in it, my body shaking violently from adrenaline. I had never done anything like that before, never stood up for myself before. I buried my face in my hands and couldn't fight back the tears anymore. They flowed out crazily, no more self-control left in me. My body shook and quivered uncontrollably. It wasn't till they spoke up did I know my friends had come. Are you all right? Abby asked. I kept my face in my hands, but her soft and gentle voice was unmistakable. Oh my God, dude, she's shaking, Mary said, her voice concerned. What happened? I felt Paige put her hand cautiously on my arm and I could feel her blue eyes observing me with intense concern. My lips quivered so much, my mouth so dry, I couldn't find the words to explain what just happened. But nearly 20 minutes had passed before a teacher noticed my insane crying. Sweetheart, are you all right? She placed her hand on my shoulder. Her old voice troubled. My words were choked, caught in my throat, but I was unable to say anything. Do you girls know what happened? She looked to my friends who were still curious themselves. They shook their heads, shrugging. She's fine, I heard one of the girls say from the other table, wanting to avoid getting in trouble. I threw a red-eyed glare, my lips pulling back into a snarl. Speak for yourself, I gnashed before I began sobbing again. The teacher helped me up from my seat and escorted me into the hall before asking again what the matter was. I still had trouble getting the words out, but so badly wanting to say them. "All right, sweetie. It's all right. Why don't we go to the counselor's?" She insisted, putting one arm around my quivering shoulders as she led me to his office. "To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nobel, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm." It was no different, but I was somehow able to force out a story. Present day. "Yo, pass me the ball," Maggie called from the 30-yard line on the large football field. Danica was on my tail, persistent at tackling me, but just as she lunged, I hurled the football towards Maggie, my face meeting the turf a second later. Danica toppled over me. "Sus," I chuckled at Danica as I shoved her off of me, watching Maggie run past the goal line. She ran around the goalpost, her arms in the air and hollering at her victory. "You know me," Danica laughed, jumping up from the ground with a wide grin on her face. "Nice throw, dude," Amber complimented, running up to me. Sweat beat off her forehead from chasing Maggie around the field, breathing heavily to refill her lungs. "Hey, no compliments to the enemy." Danica snapped, a large smile still on her face even though it was obvious she was trying to stay serious. "Why not?" "It just means this girl knows who the best is." Wrapping my arm around Amber's shoulders, she raised her eyebrows at me, crossing her arms, but didn't put down my remark. "Whatever, big shot," Danica snickered, rolling her eyes as she headed back towards the 50-yard line. "Quit fooling around and let's get back to our game," Paige called, lining up against Danica. Maggie ran past me and lined back up at the line, facing Mary. I played quarterback, facing off with Ollie. She smirked at me, her eyes gleaming with mischief. "You were just lucky that time," she laughed, positioning herself. It was our turn to start with the ball. "Luck don't got anything to do with it, Miss Grant," flashing my signature smirk. She rolled her eyes, keeping her confidence up. "Yo, what? 2 random numbers?" I yelled, Olivia tossing the ball back to me. Mary was quick to tackle Maggie, wanting to keep her out of the way this time. Ollie lunged for me, but I quickly noticed Paige open and threw her the ball as I ran away from Ollie, her arms reaching for me. "Gotta try harder than that," Ollie cat, sticking my tongue out back at her as I ran, pursuing behind Paige as she charged for the goal. I noticed Danica on her tail instantly, a sly grin on her face as she got ready to pounce for Paige. "To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nobel, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm." "Behind you," I yelled to her, but as she glanced back, Danica swiped the ball from her and sprinted in the other direction. "Get your ass back here more," Paige screamed at Danica, chasing after her. I laughed, noticing Maggie and Mary still wrestling in the middle of the field. I caught a glimpse of Ollie behind me and stopped abruptly, watching as she flew past me. I didn't waste a minute before sprinting in the opposite direction towards Danica and Amber. "Damn it. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nobel, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm." "Wait till I get my claws on you," Ollie swore, already coming back for me. I accelerated, trying to get out of reach of Ollie as I headed for Danica, Paige a few meters ahead of me. "Danica, you drop that ball this instant," I threatened, racing towards her unpassing Paige. "Or what? You'll turn me into Betty White," she scoffed, smirking back at me. I stuck my tongue out at her as she cackled, all the while paying less attention on her pace and gradually slowing down. "So much sauce coming from such a small person," I remarked. Paige suddenly appeared at my side before running past me, tackling Amber, who I had barely to jump from me. I take that as a compliment. Danica beamed, holding the ball above her head as if she were taunting me with it. The goal post was only 3 yards away. Well, here's an insult for you. I laughed, jumping and grabbing the ball from her raised hands. She gasped as she spun around, beginning to pursue after me. You don't have a chance. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I taunted, my feet beating against the turf. She growled as she chased after me, but having trouble keeping pace. That 3 years of military camp really came in handy, huh? I'm starting to think you have more sauce than she does. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Ollie called, coming out from nowhere and lunging for me. I ducked and she flew over my head, tumbling and sprawling out across the field. Of course I do. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I'm the sauce creator. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Noble, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Proud of my well-earned nickname that had continued to stay with me since 4th grade. How could we forget? Amber screamed from across the field sarcastically. I laughed, just about to cross the goal line when a painfully familiar masculine voice filled the air. Still the pathetic dreamer. I tripped over my own feet at the sound of his icy voice and went tumbling across the ground. My chin, palms, and knees scraping against the turf and earning myself some pretty tough-looking turf burns. Shut the FCK up. Damon, I heard Maggie snarl. Danica appeared beside me and helped me to my feet, brushing the fake grass from my hair and clothes. I glared up at Damon, who stood behind the chain-linked fence, his friends surrounding him like they always had been. He smirked at me with the same old evil grin that haunted me for years. You can't even play a decent game of football. A man's sport. Girly. His friends chuckling. I glared up at him, feeling my canines beginning to grow even though I was fighting to control my wolf. Still too many humans lingering around. Go to hell, Damon. No one asked you shit. Ollie barked, her fists clenched tightly by her sides. For a bunch of girls, you know a lot of big bad words. One of his friends, Nuke Dunn, snickered. He looked exactly the way he did in 7th grade. Same strawberry blonde and unruly hair. Same small and snarky face. Same lean figure. Don't you guys have anything better to do? Like, I don't know, walk in front of a bus. Amber snapped, walking up beside me. Looks like someone is regaining their self-esteem. Dang, him good. No, we'd much rather be amused with that cast than nobody's. Chase Lander shrugged, Damon grinning slyly at all of us. At least we know how to play a decent game of football without being kicked in the nuts. I growled, crossing my arms as I instantly noticed their grins drop and their faces turn red. You make fun of my friends, expect to be bitten in the ass. What's that supposed to mean? Damon narrowed his eyes at me, his muscles tensing. Oh, nothing. Nothing at all. Putting on my innocent face. Just that girls know how to play it right. You need to shut your trap before you regret it, Chase threatened through clenched teeth. Well, if that pissed him off, I wonder what I could do with this. Listen, dude. Right now I'm standing here looking at you, trying to see things from your point of view, but I can't seem to get my head that far up my ass. The girls exploded into laughter. Even Paige was clutching her stomach. She was suddenly laughing so hard. Damon's face instantly turned red, and I saw his wolf beginning to show. His group of immature dogs looked as furious or as shocked as he was. Whoops, did I insult you, Mr. Fallon? I asked innocently. Let's put it this way, I'm not mean. You're just a sissy. I saw the fence railing beneath his hands begin to bend as he tightened his grip. His teeth bared at me. Meanwhile, my friends were laughing their heads off behind me. You're going to regret that, you little BTCH. Luke snarled, protecting his leader, as he jumped over the fence and stormed towards me. But I have so many more I must recite. I complained loudly, more to Damon than to his feral dog, struggling to keep a straight face. I cleared my throat gruffly as I began backing away from him. Roses are red, violets are blue. The gods made me pretty. What the hell happened to you? I sang as he lunged for me. He swung his fist towards my face, but I moved out of reach. He tried again and again, missing my face by just about nothing. Wow, you swing like a girl. Let me teach you how to really bring on a hit. I grinned, as I ducked beneath his last punch, swinging my foot up into his jaw and sending him stumbling backwards. He barely had time to register before I brought my fist to the side of his face, feeling the skin on my knuckles split on impact. He made a quick recovery and growled at me, his fist clenched so tightly his knuckles were white. Oh shit, I just made a fool out of a popular boy in front of his big bad friends. Whatever shall I do? Yeah, right. Damsey as in damsel in distress, my ass. Before he was able to swing again, I brought my foot up into the place where the sun don't shine. He stiffened before falling to the ground, groaning loudly. Yeah, we're just a bunch of girls. You need to clean that mouth of yours out with soap, Mr. Dunn. And word of the wise, I leaned down over his paint by. Never look a wild animal in the eyes. You're just challenging them, Luke, I whispered before stepping over him and back towards my girls. Still laughing, I winked back at Damon's jaw, dropped, shocked friends. You prepare to tame the wolf. You better have some protection. Boys, I warned before turning back to my friends. Out of the corner of my eyes, I noticed all their hands fly to their crotches, except for Damon, who just kept his icy glare on me. Tick-tock. Damon, your time's running out. Chapter 8, Surviving Friends. Enemies. And crushes. Upper middle school 5 years ago, 7th grade. All right, girls. Now remember who your characters are, Mrs. Gooty TTI instructed from the back of the auditorium. Grace, a girl named Carly, and I were on stage rehearsing one of the scenes from Miss Teen Beauty Queen. The three of us played the angels, all the dead beauty pageant girls. I scored the part as Heather Kirk, the lead Roland angel who has the power to hear messages from beyond. Earning better parts in my favorite class. Always helped a bit. The bullies were too busy being bullies to ever work hard for the parts they wanted, giving me the advantage. It was one of the only things that still brought me joy in that class. It also gave me recognition in the school board and administration. It was that particular play they had seen and voted me, out of the entire school, as best actress. You girls are the stereotypical popular, dumb, flirty girls. Do you guys know anyone who's like that or ever seen someone like that on TV or something, Mrs.? Gooty TTI continued. I instantly turned to Chloe and her group of followers and couldn't help but grin. Oh yeah. I know a few of them actually. Watching their jaws drop in offense. Oh my god. That was so mean, Sydney exclaimed, all of the girls changing from stunned to furious. My grin only widened as I bent down towards them. Yeah, think about the next time you want to turn me into your little game. I threatened, proud of myself. As we continued with the scene with Chloe in mind, I perfected being the popular airhead and am pretty sure that's what led me to winning that award. But it only got better by end of class when I was gathering my stuff and I noticed Sydney. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. And my Eve walked up to Mrs. Goo-tee-tee-tee-I, throwing dirty looks in my direction. And I think she was talking about us. I managed to hear Maev complain. She noticed me staring and narrowed her eyes at me before Mrs. Goo-tee-tee-tee-I said something to them and they stormed out, all of their eyes narrowing fiercely at me. With my gut wrenching and the shock of myself actually standing up to Chloe still rushing through me, I nervously walked up to Mrs. Goo-tee-tee-I. So, I noticed Sydney, to my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilben. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. And Maev were talking to you, and I was just wondering if I was in trouble at all. I stuttered to her. I looked up at her and was relieved when I saw her smiling, reaching out to wrap an arm around me. Are you kidding? To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilben. Heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I'm proud of you. Honestly, I was thinking of them when I said all of that. She giggled. I had to admit in that moment I was a little stunned myself. I mean, I knew Mrs. Goo-tee-tee-tee I wasn't a huge fan of any of those girls any more than I was, but I never expected her to say that. I doubt as a teacher that she was allowed to. That's what made her one of my favorite teachers anyway. Oh, thank you. I was afraid I might have pushed it. I muttered. She just laughed, giving me a supportive clap on the back. No, Katie, I'm seriously very proud of you. You need to show those girls that you're not the one to mess with. Plus, I think that might be the funniest thing I've had all week. She grinned, continuing to laugh. I felt my cheeks grow hot from self-confidence. Maybe a little too proud of myself, but it was probably the first comeback for me that was good. Thank you, I repeated shyly. Have a nice day. I waved as I headed out of the auditorium. It was a force of habit. Of course I was teacher's pet, so I found myself saying that often. But among the adults and staff, I was known for my timid behavior and kindness. Exact opposite of Chloe. Present day, is it me, or was that movie just downright terrible? Maggie asked, shuddering as we walked out of the movie theater. Hopeful noise. Hell, it should be called dreadful noise. I gagged, zippering up my black leather jacket as an autumn breeze made me shiver. Maggie and Danica giggled as they walked on either side of me. Natalia Kills, Song 3 suddenly filled the air and both Danica's and my head turned towards Maggie as she fumbled for her phone. She glanced at it before a huge smile spread across her face. What? Danica asked in unison. She quickly started typing on the small keyboard before she giggled, looking back to us. Abby's have a party up at the cottage tonight. She wants all of us to come. She smiled eagerly, looking at the two of us expectantly. I'm definitely in, Danica answered, a similar smile spreading across her face. Shoving my hands into my pockets nervously. Depends who else will be there, I muttered, hoping specific people won't be attending. It's mostly friends and family, Maggie said. But David's inviting Justin. She grinned. I felt my cheeks instantly turn hot, a blush creeping up. David was Abby's twin brother, but Justin was his best friend and the guy I've had a huge crush on since 5th grade. I didn't talk to him that much while I was away. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. In all, I've been too nervous to talk to him. We had a few internet conversations and 1 or 2 conversations in school about our favorite shows, CSI Miami and Criminal Minds, trying to do our best impressions of her Aisho Kane. But that was really it. I don't know. Nags. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Feeling all my bad, as girl swab drain from me. I mean, what would the guy think of me now? To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilben, Heartfelt thanks for your unfading patience, enthusiasm. I mean, he, besides David, was my only guy friend before I moved. Did he only talk to me because he felt bad for me? Or did he actually not hate me like everyone else? KC, just yesterday you showed a whole bunch of boys you can't be messed with. Are you going to let one guy tear down your confidence? Maggie raised her eyebrows at me, her hands on her hips. I bit my lip nervously, glancing down at my feet. Casey, this might be the only time you will be able to dress so totally hot in front of him. Hell knows you won't dare wear anything that'll attract attention to you in school, or at least you didn't before, and this is one of those parties where you dress to impress. Danica exclaimed, gripping my arm excitedly. I groaned, fearing where this was heading. I don't have to dress in something formal, do I? I moaned, stressing the word formal. Does that mean you're coming? Maggie leaned in, eagerness written across her face. I rolled my eyes, letting my shoulders hang slack in defeat. Yeah, I guess. But you will not get me into a dress. It's forbidden. I exaggerated dramatically to get my point across. Maggie and Danica sighed, Maggie slapping her forehead with the palm of her hand. We're going shopping, Danica stated, grabbing my wrist as she dragged me towards Maggie's bright red Jeep Wrangler. Mags, what time does the party start? Not till 6, Maggie replied, glancing at her watch. We have a good 4.5 hours, considering the drive, including traffic, is roughly 30 minutes. I rolled my eyes, buckling into the back seat as I studied my friend's mischievous grins. You're not gonna make this easy on me, are you? I groaned, already knowing and hating the answer. KC, when it comes to boys, it isn't going to be easy, Maggie cackled, pulling out of the parking lot and hitting the gas, following the route to the mall. Isn't that an opera WH in Frake Wote? I cocked my head to the side. Maggie made a face at me and Danica turned around in her seat to raise her eyebrows at me. No, it's a Maggie Carson quote, so shut it and let me do the work. She has asked me. My eyes widened at her nightmarish statement. That's what I was afraid of. Maggie only smirking for the rearview mirror at me in response. Come on, Case, eke at your freak in ass out of the car. Maggie snapped, pulling open the car door as Danica stood beside her with her arms crossed. Music filled the air from the beach where Abby's cottage was, laughter mixing with the instruments. I don't wanna, I moaned, clutching my seat buckle as I shrunk lower in my seat, still trying to keep my jean shorts from riding up my butt. Both girls raised their eyebrows at me, Maggie's hands flying to her hips. Casey, get out of the damn car. You sound like such a baby, she scolded. What happened to that miss-aggressive act you were throwing at Damon and his group before? It wasn't an act, I gasped. There's a difference between getting revenge on the people who ruined my young life and facing the crush of my young life. I complained, rolling my eyes for emphasis. They exchanged a look with each other before Maggie took a single stride and unclicked my seat buckle, Danica appearing at her side and prying me out of the safety of my seat. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Personal Pentagon, do not come into my freak in Pentagon, I exclaimed, using my hands to accentuate my personal space, that just so happened to be shaped like a pentagon. What? Danica and Maggie asked in unison. Personal Pentagon. Examining my space. I'm an odd person. Always have been. Always will be, okay. Personal bubbles are too normal and pointless. Bubbles pop. Pentagons are sharp. See my logic? To my agent extraordinaire, Madeline Nilban, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. staring at their blank faces. New York clearly has not changed you. To my agent extraordinaire, Begins丨heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm, Maggie stated, shaking her head as Danica scoffed. Yes, I'm territorial now and somewhat maniacal, but I still choose to express myself. That's what makes me. Me cap is he. I crossed my arms, raising my eyebrows at them. Whatever you say, Casey, whatever you say. She smirked, grabbing my arm and leading me towards the cottage. The soles of my black canvas dragged against the ground as Maggie half-dragged, half-led me towards the laughter. I pulled my black vid aura over my eyes, hoping that no one would see me. School I was okay with. Weekend party. No, MG, hey guys. I heard Abby's unmistakable voice call out. I glanced up to see my small, giggly friend bounding towards us with a huge smile on her face. Hey, ABS. I grinned, opening my arms for her. She gave us each a quick, tight hug before taking a step back to laugh and observe us. KC, are you actually wearing short? Abby gasped, ushering towards my uncomfortably short, vintage jean shorts. Unfortunately, it's not like these two gave me a choice. I groaned, Maggie's and Danica's faces lighting up at the mention of their blackmail. I hated wearing shorts, almost more than wearing pink. I was always self-conscious about my body and I used to always get teased because I had thunder thighs. So I stuck with baggy pants year-round. Doesn't she look cute though? Danica chimed in. I threw her a glare, a low growl emanating from my chest. Don't call me cute. I'm anything but. To my agent extraordinaire, Begins丨heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Rolling my eyes once again. If anything, intimidating, terrifying, and weird are better words to describe me. Psychotic too, Maggie murmured. I threw her a look as Abby and Danica tried muffling their laughter. Oh yeah, such comedian, I smeared sarcastically, just wanting to move on towards the party and get it over with. Oh, lighten up, KC, this is gonna be one of the last warm days left before winter. Come on, Abby smiled, grabbing my wrist as she jerked me towards the beach, Maggie and Danica trailing behind me. Why so specific? I gaped, feeling as though Abby was about to tear my hand right off the rest of my arm. Because, Casey, you know, who was here? She giggled, winking back at me. I instantly planted my feet firmly on the ground, making Abby nearly fall back from the sudden stop. You know what? I'm feeling kind of queasy. Maybe I should just go home and sleep it off. Trying to avoid seeing my old crush. Abby just raised her eyebrows at me, a smirk crawling along her face. Your excuses depress me, Casey, Abby said, shaking her head. Now woman up and move your caboose. She demanded, once again Abby dragging me by my wrist while Maggie and Danica shoved. I hate you all, I muttered, practically pouting as we stumbled onto the sandy beach. Oh, hush up, Maggie snickered, giving me a final shove. Hey, is that Katie? I turned to see Abby's twin brother, David, walking through a crowd of people towards me, a friendly smile on his face. He and I were just about as close as Abby and I were, and we were practically sisters. Hey, David. I grinned, giving him a quick hug as he came up. What's up, man? Not much. The same old. You know. His grin wide and welcoming. I smiled back, remembering the old times Abby, David, and I had together. Yo, David, where'd you go? A deep voice chuckled, a dark figure forming in the corner of my eye. I glanced over to see a familiar face shuffling through the sandy beach towards us, dark green eyes jumping to each of our faces before landing on mine, surprised and a little stunned. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfading patience, enthusiasm. Wow, what the heck happened to you? Justin laughed, looking me up and down. I heard Maggie and Danica snicker behind me, and I flipped them off behind my back. Look who's talking. Looking up at the tall 17-year-old. He grew several inches, now about 3 inches taller than me. His shaggy black hair had grown out a bit, now coming down to his dark eyebrows. Last I remembered him, he was a little thin. Now he was all muscle, but not too much that it was creepy. Plus, his voice was so much deeper. Well, it's nothing. He grinned, shrugging down at me. You look like a whole new person though, he complimented, studying my new features. Because I am a different person, I thought to myself. It's really not that much though, I said instead. Well, we'll just leave you to it. Then, Maggie said, slinking away with Danica. Wait. David began, looking confused. Nope, let's go. David, Abby interrupted, grabbing him by the arm and quickly dragging him off with the girls and quickly disappearing in the crowd. So, what now? Just a nurse. Amused. You wanna dance? I offered hesitantly, ushering towards the lights strung around and the large speakers. He only replied with a wide smile, gently grabbing my hand and leading me towards the dance space. You still got those moves I remember so well. I winked, already beginning to follow the flow of the music. He grinned down at me, demonstrating the expert dance moves that always caught everybody's attention. You know I do. Eyes already drawn to him. You're so weird. Watching him dance in a circle around me. That's why people love me. Oh yeah, I'm sure that's the reason, I said sarcastically. He just raised his eyebrows at me, snickering. Or maybe it's my charming looks. Maybe. Hoping to draw him in like a fish. Calm and careful. Well, then it just might be my personality. Could be. He just laughed, clearly amused. So, Casey, while you were away, were you? Did you ever? Did you have a boyfriend? I raised my eyebrows at him, smirking. Why do you ask? Just curious, he replied. No, I didn't. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. I could see his muscles relax the tiniest. Did you? Yeah, a girlfriend. But we broke up last month, he responded, but with a small grin. Oh, really, yup. Well, that's sad. I'm sorry. To my agent extraordinaire, Madeleine Nilben, heartfelt thanks for your unfailing patience, enthusiasm. Except not the tiniest bit sorry at all. If anything, I was a little overjoyed. She was too clingy. He stepped closer to me, only a few inches of space between us, both our bodies still dancing to the music. Most girls here kinda are, I considered, guessing whatever popular girl he dated last. Not that I gave a dang. Tell me about it. He laughed. Oh, there's a lot we have to talk about. If you enjoyed today's story, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like, and turn on the notification bell to never miss an update.